meeting of November 17th, 2025. And our first item is to look at the October board meeting minutes. Did anyone have any comments or changes to those?
No.
No. I have 2 points. One, Karen, I just wondered, is it required that we, record in full all of the public comments that we have? Is that a city?
Yeah, all
Policy or-
we're gonna do is record their, what they speak as, you know, in
Okay.
full what they speak, and then ours are summarized.
Okay, okay. And the other thing I just want to say was I think we all appreciate the very thorough and accurate job you do on this. I mean, they're very thorough, very good. Nobody ever finds any mistakes or any comments, so thank you very much for doing it.
So we keep it quiet, but thank you.
Okay. So virtual public comment, do we have anyone from the public that's?
We need to get a motion.
Oh, yeah, we need to get a motion. Anybody want to make a motion to approve? the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second, all in favor? Okay, just thank you. Give a reminder.
Right, and I'll go ahead and read the Zoom rules if that works, and then we'll go to the comment. Okay, so hi, my name is Joanna Bloom, and I'm serving as the technical host for this meeting. We'll start with sharing a few slides of the virtual meeting rules that we followed. These rules are in place to find a balance between transparency with community members and security that minimizes disruptions. Please provide your full name if you participate in open or public comment. If your full name is not currently displayed, please update it in Zoom or send me a text and I'm happy to change it for you. There's no chat feature for this meeting, but the Q&A function is enabled for any Zoom connectivity issues. Feel free to text me at 303-817-1742 with any connectivity issues. Members of the public may be unable to control the audio or video features as video is limited to city officials, employees, and invited speakers. I'll unmute you when you're recognized to speak. And after I've unmuted you, please say your first and last name and we'll display a 3-minute timer once you begin your comments. Thanks so much for your participation. And I do see we have one member of the public. Lynn Siegel is here. Lynn, you should be able to unmute.
Yeah, I just had, can you hear me?
We
I
sure
was
can.
Switching between, I'm double duty now because I had a kidney stone, which is very relevant to RAB, water, you know, it happens. And like it blew out one of my calyces. And it's kind of disturbing when this happens to you. Don't ever get a kidney stone. It is agony for 5 hours, complete, like shoot me agony, 5 hours long. And you know, we need water, but they need water in Gaza. And there's probably lots of people there that have kidney issues that need water a lot more than the average person. They don't have water at all. And that's something to really think about. I think about it constantly. It's in my ganglia all the time. And, you know, we have water here and I'm using a lot of water now. Joanna knows about this. There's some leak somewhere. And I don't know where or how. I have to get the guy up the street from Cultivate who's helping me. When I hear it running through the walls or whatever, just like my mouse, that I've caught 7 mice, but this mouse is a terrorist mouse. This mouse is really untouchable. And I release them. I drive, you know, 2 miles on my bike at 1 in the morning with no lights, you know, to let these mouse free because I can't kill mice. And that's when they come and they can't be trapped in the cage all the time. But, you know, this water situation is not good. I have to, after Boulder's retrofit that I had in my house, I'm using water like crazy, hot water also. And you should know this, Joanna, because of Boulder's giving me a nightmare retrofit. This is unbelievable. You know, a 3-ton Mitsubishi Hyperheat blocking my side yard setback so that I can get in a fire and not be able to circumnavigate my house. I won't be able to do geothermal because they filled my attic with an air handler. When I thought they were going to put in a couple mini splits for $14,000, they probably spent $40,000 and wasted it entirely because I am not electrifying in spite of their desire to supply Xcel Energy with funding. I'm not going to pay them. I'm so upset about this. And now I'm paying a higher water bill because I have to heat my water. The hot water's not hot enough, and I have to heat my water on the stove to augment washing my dishes. And it's too cold when I'm at 54 degrees and I'm taking a shower. It's too cold for me to get warm. And I'm 72 years old, and I don't deserve to live a life like this. But I was gaslighted by the county because I found out that they were doing a solar install under adverse conditions and they refused the vendor as a result. So that's my punishment, gaslighting now in this present
Time is up.
retrofit, which is a disaster.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Okay, I do not see anyone else in the waiting room.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. So we'll move on to our main items for the evening, information item on the Valley Comprehensive Plan. Joe, do you want to provide the background for that?
And good evening, board members. I'm Joe Tediucci. I'm the Director of the Utilities Department. So the first item that we have for you tonight is an information item on the River Valley Comprehensive Plan. You might recall we had a presentation to the board on the plan in September. And during that meeting, planning staff joined us and worked with our utility staff, and we provided an overview of the plan and the update process that we're going through right now. And eventually we got to sharing kind of an overall list and summary of topics around the ways the Boulder Valley Comp Plan overlaps with utilities. And went through that at a fairly high level, summary level. And then we asked the board if there were topics that you would be interested in learning more about. So tonight we come back with information on each of the topics that you pointed out as being of interest. There's no formal action required of the board tonight. However, if you have feedback or reaction to any of the discussion, certainly would carry forward and themes as the plan development proceeds. So Layla Parker will lead our presentation tonight. Layla is our Senior Project Manager on our Water Resources team. Layla, turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be with you this evening. So I am, as Joe said, following up on our September meeting to talk about some of these Boulder Valley Comp Plan policies in greater detail. Before we get to that, I want to give a very high level overview of the comp plan update. This is intended as a refresher, next few slides, but these will look familiar to us right here in September. Couple of things I want to point out. First, just when we say the Boulder Valley, we're really talking about this area shown in green, which is a part of Boulder County, the larger outline in black. And so this is the city of Boulder and then unincorporated areas outside of the city of Boulder, but it does not include neighboring towns like Louisville and Lafayette. That is the planning area that we are talking about in this comp plan. And the comp plan was first approved in 1977. It's gone through a number of updates since that time. This will be the 8th major update. And it was kicked off in late 2024, and the team is anticipating adoption in the summer of 2026. So almost a 2-year process. The comprehensive plan and how it fits into city planning is shown on the diagram on the right. And I just circled it down at the bottom. But it does inform our capital improvements. And because it is connected to so many different levels of city planning, the planning team is involving subject matter experts from many departments in the process. So myself, Kim Hutton, and Megan Wilson have all been involved through the process, trying to bring feedback from our utilities team to the planning team. So in September, we came to RAB to specifically seek feedback on updates to comprehensive plan policies. As we talked about at that meeting, the current plan contains 210 policies that address a wide range of topics and community services. And the feedback we got from the community is that those can be duplicative, they can contradict each other, they can be repetitive of policies and other guiding documents. As an example, I have a few different policies that touch the group that Kim and I work in, water resources. So we have water conservation, water resource planning and acquisition, the in-stream flow program. The language in these policies contains references to the other policies, but not specifically. It's hard to tell what the governing language is. So we're moving towards a streamlined single water resources policy that includes all these topics. And with all of this, the intent is to be clearer, simpler, more resilient to future change and direction in departmental level planning. So again, the purpose of our being here tonight is to follow up on the September meeting with further background on the 5 policy areas that you all identified and seek your feedback on those areas. And that doesn't have a formal approval role on the comp plan, but we still want your feedback. We want to hear what you guys think about these things, and we will convey that to the comp planning team. So I'm going to go through these 5 policy areas: floodplain and flood management, climate change, utilities role in development, our regional role and financial considerations. And I'll provide some background on what the comp plan historically has said in these areas, then any new direction, any tension that we see in the policy area, and our sort of staff take on the situation. And then we can take time after each one for RAB discussion. So we'll pause after each slide. The bullets 3, 4, and 5 here are pretty intertwined. So while I have separate slides for each, we appreciate the discussion will probably bleed over between them. Any questions before we jump in? Okay. So we'll start with floodplain and flood management. And then I think the flood policies are a good example of the change that comp plan is trying to achieve, because there are 5 lengthy flood and flood management policies in the existing comp plan. A lot of detail, somewhat hard to see how they all fit together. Since that plan, or since the 2020 comp plan, we went through a lengthy process in utilities to develop or to update our comprehensive flood and stormwater master plan in 2022. And that provides a lot more like refined framework and prioritization methodology for our flood work. And we really want that to be the guiding light for our flood work. So the updated comprehensive plan flood policy will cover these topics shown on the right: protecting people and property, high priority mitigation projects, preserving floodplain, climate change and equity, all at a very high level, and leave the details to the comprehensive flood storage strategy. I think initially staff had some concerns about losing some of the language in the comp plan, and that like guiding language, being in there, but like recognize that the comp plan is referring to the departmental plan, that we have the guidance that we need. So any questions or concerns about this area, where we're going?
Do we already have like the draft policy language that's been put forward for floodplain and flood management?
It is like a really messy red line right now. So, there's still like we just went through our second round of comments, and we're getting, comments from all these different departments, from county staff. So it's not like at a point that we can put it out yet.
So following up on that, will there be an opportunity for us to see that language?
Yes, in March. Yep. Yep. Any questions? Okay. And we'll go on to the next, which was questions about how the plan addresses climate change as it relates to utilities work. So the 2020 plan includes consideration of climate impacts in policies relating to floodplain management and water supply planning. And that direction is preserved in the update, which aligns with and supports ongoing utilities efforts to incorporate climate forecasts in floodplain mapping and water supply projections, as we've talked about with you all. Brad had asked specifically about water quality the last time. The plan doesn't, and we don't anticipate it will, speak specifically to climate impacts to water quality, but it does provide this very broad guidance that climate change impacts should be incorporated into city planning and projects. And so that, supports ongoing utilities, forest management projects and advanced planning to protect source water supplies and infrastructure from the impacts of wildfire, fire, including water quality impacts. So we don't see any issues here. We feel the comp plan provides an adequate level of support for how we consider climate change. We don't feel like there's something lacking in this direction. All feel good about that? Any thoughts or questions?
What are all the climate change science sources that you utilize to kind of come to that conclusion?
Kim, do you want to speak about the water supply planning component?
Yeah, I guess I'm most intimately familiar with how we use it in water supply planning, and we're looking at the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change puts out some climate change projections models and CMIP models, and so we have essentially used what the Bureau of Reclamation has taken a lot of those models and process them for water resource purposes. So we're just using model outputs that some of these other agencies have already processed, downscaled. And then we apply them to our models. I think that in the floodplain mapping, I'm not 100% sure what the climate sources and where they're using that information. Bruce Douglas is on the line. I don't know if he has any more information about that, but we could follow up with more.
Will there be reference to specific methodologies or, models?
I mean, I think the purpose of the comp plan really is to be high level policy. So I think just a reference to incorporate climate change consideration for science into planning work is the level of detail that we're looking at. And then each project, each department can determine how best to implement it for their work.
Can you quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, and sorry about that, Kim Hutton, Water Resources Manager.
Pretty sure I forgot to do that at council Thursday. And I would agree with what Kim said in that the comp plan is at such a high level, it wouldn't really specify the methodology or the science to be followed, but it would give the policy intention for staff to follow as it gets into the details, and it would be up to staff to and consultants decide what's the state of the art doing the work.
Go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, well, just an observation first, it is hard to be precise just because of uncertainties about the emissions and what happens, but the point is get the direction right, and you're not, I'm presuming that you're not just planning for past floods, but greater floods, the potential for greater flood, that's the point.
Yeah.
And it's uncertain as how much.
Is how much, yeah, and I think, I think there's we have been part of discussions with staff, going, well, is this the right range to use? Is this the right range to use? Yes, that's why we don't specify it in the comp plan.
Recognizing it's such like a long-standing guidance document. When it comes to the floodplain and flood management, is there a reference to the 2022 CFS anticipated? Is that?
Yeah.
So there will.
Yeah, and I can't remember honestly if it's going to be like, if they're gonna call out, like the existing comp plan calls out, like the 2009 source water master plan, like it references the things by date and name. And I don't know if they're gonna do that this time around or just say like, see the latest departmental plan reference. But I think either way, like structurally, we have that reference.
And in the 2022 flood plan, climate change was one of the 6 themes that was kind of central to development of that plan. And with climate change, it's not just the magnitude of events like floods, it's the frequency. And so part of the kind of sub-bullets to that theme was do projects as quickly as you can. And with an older city like Boulder that's already developed and encroaching on the floodplains, strive for the highest level of protection that you can get in each drainage, recognizing that if we could start over and do the development over again, we might,
Be 5 miles east.
yeah. Well said. But we might land on a larger level of flood protection or leaving development away from the creeks more than we did as Boulder developed. Especially with what we know now about climate change.
And I'm assuming the answer is yes, but are you planning for the potential for some catastrophic wildfire, particularly in the watershed or?
I mean, as best we can, yeah, we're working on forest management, thinning, you know, we have, I think, Megan, do you want to speak at all about any of the tools that Kate's been working on?
Sure, I can. Yeah, Megan Wilson, Altman's Water Quality Senior Manager. We have a source water protection plan. And one of the primary threats is wildfire. And so my colleague Kate Dunlap has been working really closely for a number of years with private landowners, Forest Service, open space staff, to plan and implement forest mitigation projects. And so one was completed last year at Caribou Ranch, I believe, in Netherland. There was one that you worked on near Matasso, I think. And then there's a project that's about to start along the penstock from Kostler. Yes, thank you. So those forest mitigation projects are really kind of the bread and butter of what we're trying to accomplish. We also have a playbook that can be used post wildfire to just make quick action as fast as you can to do erosion control and down walls, that kind of thing. So those are two of the examples, but that's definitely contemplated in our source water protection plan. Is there, on the wildfire, is there anything in the comprehensive plan that talks about like coordination between city and county departments and response? Or I realize there's like a hazard mitigation emergency response plans, but is there some reference to like how that will be coordinated and managed, or how that will be emphasized? The coordination will be, there is at least one wildfire coordination policy, and I haven't dug into the language, so I can't remember exactly what it says, but yes, that's definitely contemplated and has been discussed quite a bit in the subject matter experts meetings, is how do we, you know, and a lot of the, quite honestly, we've gotten a lot of feedback on some of the like development pattern policies and things like that from like, you know, from the wildfire fighting perspective. So, yeah.
Lessons learned from Marshall Fire and maybe some other large western fires.
Yep.
There's a ton of emphasis on that topic in our cross-departmental planning in the city and then agency to agency planning. It's really a topic that's top of mind for our city council and frequently has been discussed with them, including we had the water-wise landscaping codes and fire-wise landscaping codes, then some of the recent stuff, so it's really top of mind now.
Move on to the next area, which is utilities role and development. This one's complicated. And this and the subsequent 3 set of slides will sort of all related, as I mentioned. So a major element of a comp plan is land use designations and policy direction on the location and timing of new development. I'm going to walk through all these colors, but that's what those are about. And the development in Boulder primarily occurs through infill, so within the existing city limits. So very specific areas may be considered for annexation. So the land use designations shown here inform how development occurs and thus inform population and employment projections. And those in turn inform utilities, long-term planning for replacing aging infrastructure, investing in new infrastructure, and ensuring reliability of service at defined service level. Pretty important. The upper section here shows the existing plans, land use designations, 2020. I'm not expecting anybody to be able to read that. But I just wanted to show that In the update, there will be fewer categories. They're trying to simplify the land use designations, but they also, as part of that, are allowing for greater density in certain designations and in greater areas of the city. So we do expect that the new comp plan will allow for greater density within the city. And so that. But the policies on the annexation, I want to point out, are anticipated to remain the same. We'll talk more about those. But so with that greater density, that does allow a path forward to growth to increase over the path rate we've seen in the past. And that could influence what we need to do in our CIP. And it could also influence where development happens, and if that development is happening in areas where utilities infrastructure is nearing its capacity, that could also influence how we structure the CIP. So our staff take is that ongoing coordination between planning and utilities is essential to ensure alignment between the CIP and development. We've had a lot of discussions about which is leading which, and it is a bit of a dance between the two, and we really just know that we need to maintain close collaboration to ensure that adequate infrastructure exists for new development. I will say that we feel pretty confident that the policies, so there's a land use designations in the plan, and then there's policies around development. And we feel comfortable that those policies provide guardrails for new development. So for example, these are two existing policies. Again, the language will be slightly different and reorganized, but similar intent in the update. And they say things like facilities and services based on established level of service standards must be available prior to or concurrent with development. So there's language in there that sort of ensures that we can provide, that we're making sure that we have utility services before development happens. So that's a high level review of that meeting topic. What questions or concerns does Rob have?
Aren't you gonna give us the colorful map?
You want to go to I've seen it. I have to say that we went through a whole presentation with these things and then. Like, you know what I'm sure.
You explain, I think I guess, but the
Yeah.
hubs, maybe or at least elaborate, assume transportation hubs, commercial hubs.
Yes, yeah, I think they are like, think of like Pearl Street, I believe is a hub, or the King Supers shopping area in South Boulder, things like that. I think, I don't remember did we put like CU into hubs? No, CU's under other. I think that like the 55th Street sort of technology area is a hub. Like that.
Of different scales, so they would have like a neighborhood hub that would attract people to businesses, just kind of that were very local, coming from the neighborhood, maybe walking, biking.
Yeah.
That's one scale of a hub. So under that, that would incentivize, maybe coffee shops in areas where we don't have them right now. And they just get bigger in magnitude.
Is there any discussion in the comp plan about like affordable housing or equity and how that relates to
Yes.
utilities plan?
Number of policies that speak to affordable housing and equity, and that's been a big push,
Is there any like mention of how the utilities like role in development in that space?
So that we'll get into like in the financial considerations. I think there's a bit about both paying its fair share. So that's sort of, those are ways that we can get to affordability, but it's certainly challenging.
Indirectly, I think. The concept of more density. Gives us and our team something to think about in terms of planning and infrastructure. And the resources that we have. More dense housing is, depending on how it's developed, is one option for making it more affordable.
What is this neighborhood 1 and neighborhood 2? What are those mean?
Yeah, and I should have had all the definitions at hand, but I think that Megan and Kim, you can correct me if I misremember, but I believe neighborhood 1 includes up to like a quadplex. So like 4 attached homes. From single family to 4 attached homes, and then neighborhood 2 is like anything up to multifamily. So. Currently, we have like low density residential, medium density residential, there's more zoning that only would allow a single family, and so now there will not be a zone that is just single family.
I think it's a mixture, like neighborhood 1 is predominantly the lower density housing, but there could be multifamily, but then getting into neighborhood 2 is predominantly like a higher density than a low density. So there, it's very fluid.
What size of neighborhoods?
So the map, I mean, just these colors are painted onto the map of Boulder, so like a neighborhood could be, 1 street, or it could be the entire Table Mesa neighborhood, like there's variation in scale. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just to clarify, so these like new designations throughout the city, they're not like changing zone. It's just like how the city's planning for development throughout the city.
Yeah, and then the zoning is the next level that comes out of the land use designation. Yeah. Okay, so the next topic that Rob asked about was how the plan guides utilities collaboration with other communities and supports regional redundancy and resilience in the context of climate change and other stressors. This question could be interpreted a number of different ways, and I'm going to talk through kind of what our take was on it, but we can go a different direction if that's not what you were intending. So 2 things I want to say. One is about sort of more broadly, we were just talking about land use designations primarily within the city, but thinking about the whole planning area, the comp plan specifies areas 1, 2, and 3. So 1 is in the yellow here, and that is within the city limits. 2, area 2, annexation can be considered if consistent with the Boulder Valley comp plan. So it's these gray areas on the outskirts of the city. Areas 1 and 2 together are the service area where we can provide utility services. Area 3 is the big green border around us, is generally under county jurisdiction and intended to remain rural. So generally speaking, the city cannot extend urban services to new urban areas outside of the service area crossed in city boundary, but we can extend urban services to certain areas consistent with annexation policies, the blue line, and with the CIP. The blue line, I'm just going to switch slides for a second, being this blue line on the west side of the city, which was established or added to the city charter in 1959. So it's an elevation of 5,750 feet above which city water service cannot be provided. It's our western boundary. The other thing we wanted to point out is that while the scope of the comp plan is just this area shown on the screen, the comp plan does speak regularly to like regional collaboration and supports regional collaboration. And that is something that we do. We work collaboratively with neighbors in emergency settings, fire response at the recent fire in Netherland, or supporting water teams in Superior, Spell, and fire. We work with neighbors on long range projects like South Boulder Creek and Stream Flow, where we collaborate with Lafayette and Denver Water. So the regional collaboration is supported by the comp. Is this kind of I think Amy, I'm just going to point my finger at you. This is your question. Is this kind of what you were getting at with your question?
Yeah, I think I was wondering if the comp plan would be addressing, sort of the future planning where there might be extreme events and like, more coordinated growth between the community, the cities, as well as just Boulder County. So kind of how are we working with Superior or Broomfield or Louisville and Lafayette, and making sure that our comp plan sort of makes sense within the comp plan world and the regional development planning for all of the Front Range. And I know that the city gets involved with Dr. Hogg on things and participates in some of these targeted bigger regional planning initiatives.
Yep.
Or, yeah, targeted regional plans. So I just wondered how that fit in and what that meant for utilities, because the city of Boulder Utilities is has for so long been so forward looking and thinking about infrastructure and water resources, and there's sort of an inconsistency or disconnect with some of the other neighbors here, so how does that match up and reconcile?
Yeah, I think that there are a lot, there are regional efforts like Dr. Cog that you mentioned. I think that within water resources and water quality, we are thinking about what role we have with our neighbors. We have a traditional role with neighbors that is structured through the water court process. In water resources, we're thinking about other ways that we can be collaborative and forward-looking. There's different, I don't know, is there anything else you two want to mention?
Yeah, I think there are a few intergovernmental agreements that kind of talk about development in a more regional way. One of them is the West 36 corridor agreement that just kind of broadens the scope of this planning area in kind of that southeast area. But I guess maybe more broadly, the Boulder Valley Comprehensive Plan is kind of specifically the city of Boulder and Boulder County. And there are 5 approval bodies, I believe, one of which is the Boulder County Commissioners. Please correct me if I'm wrong with this. 4, yeah, okay, 4. But I think you make a really good point, Amy, and I think it's something, as Layla said, that we've been talking more about is how do we relate to our neighbors, especially to the east. So I think that's, we could definitely take some of that feedback back. I do think the comp plan, as it's currently in draft form, does contemplate regional collaboration, like sort of broadly. And we can continue to kind of explore those opportunities and needs under that sort of broad language. It's not very specific, I don't think.
No, but I mean, you won't solve like North Front Range.
But following, I think that's an excellent point. Do our neighbors have similar planning process? Process and efficiency?
So, yeah.
They also, there is a comprehensive plan for Louisville and Louisville.
I live in Louisville and they are going through a comprehensive plan. I'm not sure how it compares to this one because I'm not sure it includes the county, but they do have their own version.
One exercise might be just comparing
And
the
there's,
same parts to see, at least make sure they're not inconsistent or contradictory.
and there's like, there's a comprehensive economic development strategy for the region, and there like hazard mitigation plans that come from a more regional perspective and also come from like specific. So just kind of like how do those plans align and make sense together, as well as being strong and well thought out independently. Yeah, great point.
You said there are 4 approvals, so obviously Boulder City Council, the county commissioners, who were the other 2?
Boulder City Council, Boulder Planning Board,
Of planning.
Boulder County Commissioners, and the Boulder County Planning Board.
Yeah.
Planning commission.
Planning Commission, yeah.
That's your, okay.
This Happy said that the area 1 and 2 are the areas that the department can currently provide service, right? I think we talked about this before, but that area 3 planning reserve up there, is that what's the status of that area now? Is that the area that we talked about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago? That's the area H or whatever it's called, is that?
Yeah, that's the Area 3 Planning Reserve, that like light green.
Yeah,
Area.
what's the status of that area now in terms of developmental plans.
So the process for that is sort of concurrent with the comp plan, and so I think in January. The city council will have an opportunity to hear discussion on an. Evaluation of service. Baseline services study. What is it? Isn't it the baseline services? Baseline services
So
study.
I think it's the needs analysis.
Okay.
Like that, I think initially, last year, they did the urban services study, feasibility study, just to get a sense for what order of magnitude of cost would entail development of that area. And after that, city council said, great, thank you, proceed to the next step. So the next step is like a needs analysis. So staff is putting together an evaluation of what are the unmet needs within this city Boulder community, and can those needs only be met by developing this Area 3 planning reserve? And if council feels yes, that's the case, then they approve to go to the next level, which would be, I think, incorporating planning reserve into the comprehensive plan. I think changing the planning area from planning reserve to area 2.
Is that where the gun range is?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be, that doesn't necessarily mean suddenly we're serving that area. It's partially privately owned, partially owned by the city. So then, just like any other land in area 2, have to apply for an annexation, and then the extension of city services would follow. So I think that's like a number of years out, but that's generally the process. I may have missed a step. But that's really helpful.
Involving utilities too, but like. The general theme of this comprehensive plan is keep the areas that are developed vibrant and active with improvements and investment into utilities and like incentives for more and more activity, infill and not outfill. Would you say?
Yeah. I think, the evaluation of area 3 is somewhat separate from that very direction that you just described very nicely for the comp plan. The comp plan really is about continuing to make the city a nice place to be.
But it's awesome. But there's a little bit of a different tone in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on this one? The last topic, fifth and last, is financial considerations. So Rab asked for further discussion on cost recovery and affordability of utility services. The comp plan primarily speaks to that topic in that it has historically been very clear that growth pays its fair share. And that update preserves that existing broad policy guidance. Development will pay its fair share of new facility costs. The attention to that policy is that there can be a very high cost to gaining access to city services, right? So as an example, San Lazaro manufactured home community, residents have a high interest in connection to city water. The cost in doing so has contributed to stalled discussions about the annexing to the city. So not an easy topic. Staff take is that policy is appropriate to balance funding of new development with ensuring reliable service. And the devil's really in the details of how we determine fair share, to plan investment, fee methodology, and that may be updated in coming years. Especially if things change with what area we're serving.
Failure is not necessarily 100%.
It's not necessarily 100%. It's not necessarily less or more than 100%.
There, for example, there could be a portion of town where we're planning to replace a 20-inch transmission pipe. But then there's some development that's happening that when you factor that in, it really needs to be 24-inch. And so the incremental difference might be what's
But generally, when we make city like capital improvement plans, we're not saying, okay, this is going to service area 4. And so service area 4 is gonna pay 100% of this. It's. Because there are so many improvements across the system. You sort of like figure it ends up being equitable at the end of the day. You're not like applying those very specific costs every time to the individuals that are benefiting from that infrastructure upgrade or new infrastructure.
Correct, the majority of the stuff that comes before the board in the capital improvement plan every year is just as you say. It's not being split up between who benefits from it, but occasionally there can be a development related thing that a portion of the capital costs needs to be assigned to that development.
Just curious, does it have to follow a formula or is that just done on a case by case basis?
I think there are formulas and we have staff members in our planning department who really implement all those things when they come up. So we work in close partnership with them.
Ask questions? Okay. Well, thank you for your feedback. I wanted to note a couple of major public milestones that are coming up. So recommendations on major policy and land use changes will go to council and planning board at a joint meeting in December. January 15th is the council public hearing at which that next phase in the Area 3 planning reserve process, the name of which we couldn't exactly remember, but that will happen in January. March, the public draft plan will be released, and that's when you will actually see this policy language. And have another opportunity to actually provide like comments on the language itself. And then we hope to have the plan wrapped up in summer. So that's the schedule. Any other thoughts? Thank you all for your feedback and thoughtful comments. We will share those and I think really think about that regional planning comment. So, it's a great one.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. What a cool process to be involved in, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay. So we'll move on now to the issue of this letter of recommendations to the city council.
Yeah, for sure, and I'll note that the team members who are here to support the comp plan, feel free to pack up and leave if you'd like. We're gonna completely shift gears here, although people are welcome to stay as well if that's of interest. So this next item is actually an action item for the board. It's a involve a public hearing. And it's basically recommendations from the Water Resources Advisory Board to City Council in the form of a letter on 2026 priorities. Last meeting, we discussed under upcoming schedule this topic and the invitation from council for boards to make recommendations on what boards think should be council's work plan priorities. The letters are due by the end of the year. And when we were talking under upcoming agenda, we discussed some options. We could try to schedule a retreat to do this, which is what we normally have done in the past when there's been a request from council for board letters or try to integrate it into a business meeting. And I think after discussing with you all, the preference was rather than trying to cram a retreat in at the end of the year, let's just do it in a business meeting, which is tonight. And you all nominated Katie and Steve to work together to bring some ideas forward so that you have something to start with tonight. And just as a reminder, council did provide a letter template that all of the boards were to use. It was actually an attachment to the packet tonight. And so I think Steve and Katie, you worked up a draft that you may have shared with Karen. And that on the screen there is the template that went to all boards and, what they requested. And they'll discuss the board recommendations at their 2026 council retreat. A big priority of their retreat is setting their work plans and their council priorities. Because of changes in the elections, this will be a one-year term for councils, and then we'll have another election. It's gonna switch to even years. So there'll be a one-year plan. It would normally be a two-year plan. And so that's the template. And then I think, Steve and Katie shared a draft. And so it might make sense to start with that and just maybe quickly high level, you can summarize what's in there. Then perhaps we could stop and have a public hearing if there's anyone that would like to speak to the board and in your recommendation.
So we have a public hearing. After we've decided how we want the thing to read or before or during, or when do we have to do that?
Normally, a public hearing would happen. If you think of the things that we bring forward, like the CIP that require board action, you would do a staff presentation. And the board could ask us questions, then you would do a public hearing. And hear from the public, then you would deliberate and make your vote. And so if you kind of talked generally about what's in your draft to start with, did the public hearing after that, in case anyone wants to weigh in and give you something to think about, then you deliberated on that. And that deliberation would include editing or making any final changes you want to your letter. And then at the end of all that, you would vote and make a recommendation if you all agree on the letter to advance it to council.
Okay.
Good.
I think Katie pulled together a draft and maybe you can run through that. It seems like our main objective though is to kind of condense that down and maybe come down to two or three major points we want to make and keep within the length guidelines and so forth. So maybe you can run over
Yep.
how you pull that together and then we can chat a little bit before we have a public hearing.
Great.
Okay.
So there were kind of three primary priorities that kind of rose to the top of both RAB interest and staff work plans priority. And so those three highlighted here, the South Boulder Creek flood mitigation work, and there's information here on that. The utilities rate study that's coming up in 2026. And then upcoming CIP projects. I actually think there might be a fourth one here as well. Sorry. Upcoming CIP projects, and then what we just heard on the Boulder Valley comp plan as well. So those four kind of rose to the top. And so I think the intention here is some discussion around those four and some condensing as appropriate. And then at the bottom here, there were a couple other things to discuss that maybe not as high priority. So the integrated water supply plan pre-work that's going to be coming up in 2026, as well as some of the wildfire preparedness projects. And then at the end here, we have a couple comments and questions for staff that we can discuss later on, but that's really the intent, is to kind of discuss those projects and prioritize what the board would like to send to council.
This is sort of struck me, looking at this, needed at the top two are kind of, specific projects or programs that we might want to draw attention to, whereas the second two are sort of more broader, not so much water or utility focused efforts that maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not our role to emphasize those as much, but maybe we could start by talking about these top two items, because it seems like it's pretty good agreement that those two things should be on the list. What did people feel about the way these were worded, and is this sort of the level of detail or length that would be appropriate for this, like two or three sentences, or like, this is an important topic and here's why? here's what our position is, and that's sort of it.
For sure, and for
Yeah.
context. In the last council retreat. The council group landed on 11 priorities. And they're generally at the. Reasonably the same level of detail, but in past, it wasn't on the last work plan, but past councils when. The South Boulder Creek Flood Project was. Really at the peak of evaluation and public process and annexation discussions. It was a topic that was on the council work plan. On its own. The last council highlighted something around supporting manufactured housing communities and. Opportunities to upgrade their utilities infrastructure. And so those are the types of things that can be on their plan. And it can be somewhat specific, like a certain project, or it could be more broad. We might have something more broad around housing or what.
It seems like the first topic there is one that. There's pretty broad agreement on, and I know it's also an item of importance to the department. Try to emphasize the importance of. Not continuing to. Go back and forth on this issue, but to actually find a way to move forward on it, and so it seems like that's one important part of this, and I guess, as you've written it there, Kate, we say we strongly encourage council to prioritize and advocate, et cetera. Should we make, should we make that language stronger or, like, this is our number one priority and we think it's pretty critical, or is that, what do y'all think in terms of the wording there?
I was wondering, what levers does council have in terms of the actual implementation? Because the plan says, question of getting it done. I agree with the objective, but does council have specific decisions they can make that can remove obstacles or just accelerate the deployment of the plan?
Possibly, it's currently tied up in litigation, and so there could be around the funding of it, so there could be things in the future related to funding that might come before council.
They could help to maintain public support for the project and keeping it like in the forefront of discussions of council. Acknowledging it as being something that's important properly. Which would be helpful for utilities.
We specify that language specifically, like we can encourage you to continue to advocate for this like throughout the public.
Yeah, we strongly encourage council to prioritize and advocate for the project's implementation as it's crucial for community safety, infrastructure resilience, and long-term flood risk reduction.
That seems like it captured it pretty, it's good much, well done.
So do you want to go ahead and move that one up to priorities?
Say so. Yeah, does everybody agree if that's sort of one of the, based on the two major?
You may want to hit these all kind of that way and then hear from the public before you.
Yeah, it's not that.
Yeah. The rate study, the council needs to approve the rate study and the rate increases associated, right? So it's important that they have some awareness and how this is important in terms of the water policy or the water budgets.
It may be worth adding language though to say there will be a vote before council to identify those policy enhancements, like the ask of council, because I'm not sure that's clear here. Like what we're asking council for here, other than like supporting the recommendations, but.
I guess you could add a sentence at the end, council will be will approve or will be asked to approve the rate study.
Mhm.
And do we have timing?
We do, I'm not So 2026, so we would be going to cancel. for this.
Yes, it will. It'll probably be Q3 or 4, and then they would be implemented until 27. Should be.
I'd honestly have to go back and look at the mechanics of exactly how it gets approved with.
I mean, they would definitely be approving the rates. I'm not sure whether they vote on the water budget policy. That might be more of an operational thing. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no,
that bullet there at the end of the, or near the end, that last, under other questions, comments, considerations.
right.
The second bullet really was sort of, I think, in many ways encapsulated.
I was gonna say that sort of ties into this.
Yeah, do we want to, I guess the question is, do we want to, since we're trying to be explicit, do we want to work some of that language into the,
Well, or somehow or another ascertaining that the rate study will. That will be one of the outcomes of the rate study, will justify or explain. Why these sort of water rates are necessary.
right, I mean, recognizing that, you know, clearly the needs for capital improvement, but also that the costs are rising, you know, and we could say the rate above inflation, or this, you know, 70% a year. You know, and could pose affordability issues for some.
Maybe there's someone who can work the affordability angle into this phrasing here. And
Yeah, I mean, there is some, we say that,
A key focus of the rate study will be balancing the concerns of sustainable investment with affordability.
yeah.
That's
That's good.
Can you just say that again, Karen?
Yes, please.
Can you go back up to the, sorry, the part about the rate study? Okay, yeah, so. I don't, maybe instead of that in conjunction sentence, I don't know. Yeah, there will be a focus on balancing sustainable development with affordability.
Sustainable investment.
Sustainable investment, yeah.
With affordable, yeah, I think that captures it.
Yeah. So do we just need?
may be able to combine that with a sentence,
Yeah,
Yeah,
couple up there where it says about voter sustainability, equity.
yeah,
So it gets a little bit redundant there.
yeah, I
I
agree.
think, yeah, maybe replace the in conjunction.
Yeah, moving this to.
Yeah, maybe replace that in conjunction sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole sentence,
That's a good change.
yeah. And then put that, there will be a focus there.
There will be or should be. Since we're wordsmithing.
There will be,
There will be, okay,
that's
that's how that's proper.
prudent input from the board.
Would be focused on balancing sustainable investment for both. This recommendation aligns with Boulder's. Do we need that?
No.
Sentence.
No, not
We
really.
can erase that,
And then.
council, yes, yeah,
Can we miss that?
yeah.
Yeah,
We. Don't you love wordsmithing as a team here?
they have more than people involved there.
2026, there will be an effort to identify policy enhancements that continue to encourage, and then we say there will be a focus. So there's a little bit of. Repetition.
Oh, but there will be,
Uh,
can you say like the
The-
study will focus on
Yeah.
in the second sentence? Or the study will also focus on,
Take into consideration.
Yeah.
yes,
Yes. Study will take into consideration balancing sustainable investment with affordability.
yes, that's good. Yes.
Maybe as long as we're rewriting, should that sentence, that last sentence, should that go after the clause in the first, in 2026, council will be asked to approve the rate study period? And then there will be an effort. Once we do the editing.
Either way.
Yeah, I'm not.
I feel like prefacing it first before we say council votes on it is.
That's fine.
Do we wanna say something about why it's important to council, other than council to improve it, like?
And that sort of draws into the point down here that the bottom of it. It's important that they realize that it's an issue of. It's getting more attention amongst their public.
Yeah.
And that, the rates have gone up enough that some people are starting to, ask questions about it or. Whatever, so it's not just a mechanical issue for the utilities.
So do you think
department.
after like affordability, we should say like which is a concern of older residents?
Or say the. While annual rate increases. Are necessary to maintain aging infrastructure and ensure reliable service. There's a growing concern about affordability for residents. The study will take into consideration balancing sustainable investments with. affordability.
Yeah.
So taking that sentence out of that.
Or you could just add a sentence between sustainable and the study that says. It snags that.
Is that down on the bottom? Yeah, to the very bottom. Or take everybody
It
else.
says there is a growing concern.
Very first one.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That's good.
that,
Sure, great.
and maybe just. Get rid of sustainable, affordability, sustainable, so.
It's drops.
It's pretty good.
You're great.
Oh, this is.
You guys was
Done this before.
Yes. You can tell,
And then you can erase the word sustainable there in that sentence.
Yeah, that's right.
So we don't know exactly what else council needs to do with the rate study, other than just approve it, but like past that, we're not clear on like if they have to actually approve the rates. That come in it. Is that what we were talking about? I think they have to approve the rates, but we're not sure if they need to approve the water budget policy guideline updates. So this is just asking for them to approve the rates that come out of the rate study. And I think for them to acknowledge and be aware of that tension between like the investment and the costs, the necessary investment cost impacts.
I think to clarify, if I can weigh in. So the rates really get approved every year in the annual budget process. The rate study is really the mechanics of how we bill our customers, and we think about equity and those types of things, and practicality and simplicity. And so I think the public process, the board process, the council process, we do our best to bring our expertise to that. And also, the public really can influence and has in the past when they bring something to our attention that needs to be addressed. So it's really the mechanics of it. Our whole business model in utilities is based on cost of service and covering our costs. So they're not necessarily, all the approvals and recommendations from the board is not necessarily about the rates themselves, but kind of the algebra of how they're calculated and assessed.
It seems like that reads pretty well now.
Yeah.
We through again. It's not redundant. Comfortable now? We want to move on to that CIP projects. Yes, my inclination there maybe would be to say something more like. It's critical that the utilities department be reinvesting at some sort of sustainable rate in the infrastructure and this is a. A national crisis or whatever, that, that utilities are not. We have to make sure that our utility is reinvesting at a rate which will maintain the maintain the.
So maybe
Working and-
just keep the first sentence.
Guess what I'm thinking is to say something like that and then just say particularly important in that plan are the 1, 2, 3, 4, and
Yeah.
like you got me, I'm just leaving it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, so delete that next sentence, I think.
Specific projects the board recommends council support in 2026.
You can keep that one.
We are not keeping it somewhere.
You can keep
So
it
leave the
specific.
specific projects. As it is and then.
Yeah. Do we want to say, I mean, to your point, Steve, do we want to put a sentence in there that says something about how Boulder wants to maintain its record of, you know,
Appropriate investment levels or
yeah,
timely investment.
without sort of throwing other places under the bus?
It's important that Boulder continue its history of responsible investment in the infrastructure.
Yes, yeah,
Something like that.
it is critical. Boulder continue its. Prudent and adequate investment. In public infrastructure.
I want to say it's record of,
Yeah, continue its record of prudent and.
Yeah.
Adequate or appropriate investment in public.
And continue its record of
Yeah.
prudent and adequate.
I think you take out continuous.
Just continue its record, not continue its continuous.
Continue its continuous record. We want to emphasize,
However, at this
we
point,
have
oh,
not given up. We're not giving up.
Makes it sound like it's gonna be our wheels.
Asking the obvious questions, all of these items are all, they were all gonna work within the current plan and rate structure proposed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're hitting on things that are absolute priorities for the department, and so those are in alignment with our work plan too.
Okay.
So I don't hear the board saying we need to change. Council, we need you to tell staff to change course on what it's doing.
those 5 projects there would be the ones that would kind of put to the top internally if you guys all sat around and said, what are our most important projects or. Or should we add one or should we take one off or?
No, I think, I mean, if you look at the 6-year CIP or a 20-year, there are some really high level projects that would stand out to us, but if you look at a particular year like 2026, I believe these are good candidates.
I may just clarify Gregory Canyon Creek flood mitigation, don't just spell that out.
Should we spell out the CIP in the heading there? Is that not necessary? Wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. No, it's just projects. I know there's a level to. How they start.
CIP is capital improvement plan, not projects, was that,
It is projects.
it is projects? Okay.
Looks pretty good. I guess. In terms of the fourth, the other points that you threw out there, Katie, I mean, should we? Seems like the Boulder comprehensive plan, do we really need to tell them they should focus on the Boulder comprehensive plan? They probably don't know, but without us.
Input for me, and I thought it might be helpful to add the lens on comprehensive plan of the areas that we care about. Cause they're like gonna obviously be dealing with a lot of the comprehensive plan, but what are we from RAB thinking about that we also think that they should pay attention to? That was my logic, but I'm open to removing it, others feel that it's.
Well, I'm wondering, yeah, but I mean, it comes through in the other priorities, but maybe a statement about the importance of considering. You know, the emerging risks, I mean, particularly climate change, I think, flooding, the fire. Things, or sort of comes through in the others, I don't think we don't have to be explicit about it, but maybe a statement that's. You know, important to keep these in mind and prepare as quickly as we are able to.
Yeah, and maybe that's not even a priority, maybe like in that closing sentence, we say like. RAB supports the comp plan and. You know, workarounds.
And particularly with its. With its role and then just list those
Yeah,
highlighted things in one sentence. That's all.
yeah, yeah.
Is it a fourth bullet or is it like a?
I think there's like a closing little paragraph.
Yeah.
At the top. It's like a little wordy, so. this
I
is-
mean, maybe say something like finally, RAB
Yeah,
strongly supports the Boulder Valley Comprehensive Plan and in particular the XYZ
yeah.
points that you've made there, and then that
The emphasis
keeps it
on-
kind of concise.
the emphasis on.
Gosh, is that a bullet point?
So up at the top, if you go scroll up. Up further, like at the letter part. Right there, so where it says the board believes these recommendations, maybe right after that, say, like in closing. Or how did you say that, Steve?
Maybe before it, you could say, lastly,
Oh, nice, thanks, Joanna.
Wow.
Well, but I don't mean to be passing notes in school, but I just said finally RAB supports the Boulder Valley Comp Plan and in particular the emphasis on. And then.
Yeah, that's great, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's the first sentence. Yeah, that's great.
that I don't know where it goes.
So I think at the beginning there. Right before the board believes.
Are you all open to me providing? some
Please.
text on
Yep.
This one. So I think that you just heard the comp plan presentation. I don't know that there will be an opportunity for the board to provide such direct input to council on the comp plan. You know, if we carry it forward and blend it into memos that RAB said this, planning board said that, it probably doesn't carry as much weight. However, this will absolutely be front and center in the city process, whether council picks it as a priority or not next year. And as Layla presented in the next steps in March, I think you will have the opportunity to provide feedback. So you would have the option of holding this and presenting those thoughts then, and we would commit to carrying it forward. You could also put it in your letter now and reiterate it then. But I just wanted to throw that out there for context. You probably have some options.
So. So we're gonna insert 3 bullet points right above there, right?
Yeah.
And then we're gonna close it by saying finally RAB supports the Boulder Valley Comprehensive Plan and in particular the emphasis on, and then what were the 4 or 5? Emphasis on, flood plain and flood management, comma. Climate change, comma. We wanna add, we wanna put all these things in there.
I'd say climate change preparation.
Climate change preparation.
Or preparing for.
Do you want us to just say in particular emphasis on climate change preparation and development, like I don't so we need all the other ones?
Probably not.
Floodplain, yeah. Emphasis on climate change and
Policy develop?
utilities role in develop.
Yeah.
Utilities. In development.
I like that. Climate change and utilities role in development.
Utilities role in development, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And then you can erase floodplain and flood management.
Oh, we'll leave that in, I think. You might want to get rid of the comma after on. This is. And possessive on the utilities.
Did we take out, did we want to mention floodplain management separately? Just climate change.
I feel like climate change covers.
Kind of incorporates, yeah. But that would still be part of the sentence below would be part of the same sentence, or the same paragraph. Rather than- yeah.
That's fine.
Do we want to say the emphasis on policies related to climate change preparation and utilities? Because it is a policy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Policy change.
So,
Policies related.
Policies around climate change.
or just on
Yeah,
policy,
policies around, yeah.
on climate change.
And that encompasses the flood
Yeah,
management and financial considerations, regional.
And this keeps it from being too long and drawn out.
Yeah, yeah.
So by around, you mean something very, as opposed to, as you said, on, that would be too narrow. Specific climate, I'm just thinking it's on rather than around, it's just to edit. So it's on climate change preparation and utilities role or around.
Policies involving the effects of climate change.
On is after emphasis on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we'll just grab the 3 bulleted paragraphs below and drop them in there. and-
Yeah. Then let's take a look at how long that looks to be when we get to that.
What's the overall? Is there a thing?
No more than 2 pages.
Okay, did they say the font?
You'll be fine.
Yeah, I think we're picking them out.
It's the word font of 4.
Maybe a little bit more.
Let's see.
Right.
Are we leaving the Boulder Valley Comprehensive?
No, we're taking that out. So what you highlighted there, just move it up to the top.
And drop it, yeah.
Right.
Do we want to write out Boulder Valley comprehensive plan?
Sure.
Oh, sure. Unless it pushes us over 2 days.
Comprehensive is such a long word.
But we are in 2 days
So I think so, yeah.
I think,
with room to spare.
I think the last, it's only gonna be 1 paragraph, I think.
Yeah, combine those 2 last paragraphs maybe, that will save us all.
We could also do 2 columns with their names, you know,
Tiny margins.
11 by 17 paper.
But nobody knows 12 and 11 font, but.
Yeah.
Get away with it.
This is 12 by above.
You probably don't have to have that BVCP in parentheses.
You don't reference it anywhere else?
I don't think so. But that's a fair comment for me to make, you know, let's see.
We are, yeah.
And then you're gonna delete whatever's left down below, right?
Yeah.
Just the order, just, Catherine, do you actually go third?
What?
So you're filling in a slot. Do we list these in order of the that's much seniority or the number of years we have left? Is it, does Catherine go third?
The last.
We
We have enough space that you can put a return before the thank you.
You guys are.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you on its own.
Put an alphabet, put Catherine. Catherine, alphabetical order for the ones without titles.
Okay, that was a critical change there.
I like the glass.
And you want
And then
to,
we can put thank you on a separate line, that looks about right, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, yeah.
You can put in a PI. That's pretty good.
Let's look at the very opening paragraph again, we didn't like.
Is the city's strategic plan capitalized?
Is it accurate to say that each of these is gonna be achievable within 12 months?
Because specific is particularly with the projects, right? I mean, the point is getting them started, right?
yeah, I think you're okay.
But we're making, is the language clear then that we're just saying on the projects on the third bullet that we're getting them started? We're not gonna finish, they're not gonna
You think
finish.
you think it makes sense to leave that within 12 months from there?
Is that, I can't remember, is that the boilerplate language that was in the template or? did you-
Yeah. That's
How
what
about-
they requested.
Or
Each
each,
recommendation
They
is
did.
achievable within 12 months,
Just say-
supported by existing resources and positioned to advance meaningful progress.
or do we mean
Well, that's
achievable?
them.
Do we say achievable?
No, that, they just said within, like, specific to the year.
Okay.
So next year, rather than within 12 months, how about just, what do we just say next
Positioned
year?
to advance meaningful.
No, we can erase a lot of that. If you just want to erase that whole last sentence, that's fine. I think it's clear that it's 2026 priorities. That's fluff.
Well, maybe that's it.
So we
You're gonna
said
take
it
that
right
out.
in
Why
the
don't you put in
next
twenty
sentence, too?
twenty-six? In the first sentence.
We just go to it. These people, you know, they don't.
I'm beating around the bush here.
Yeah.
Well, what about putting in 2026 in the first sentence before?
Yeah.
It's already right there in the header into the bullet points, right?
Okay. First sentence, 2026. So.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, then that's fine.
Okay, should we do the public hearing part now and then we can fine tune after we're done with that?
Sorry, can I make one comment really quickly? I think we could just say the following are the board's recommendations, because above we say potential priorities. I think that's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, good point.
You're doing great so far. This could have us here till midnight.
I know.
You know, I'm very. It's not game papers here, we're.
No, yeah.
Okay, so you'd like me to ask for a public?
Yeah, I
comment?
guess so, yeah, I think so.
Great, okay, so if any of the attendees would like to comment on the board's recommendation to city council for their 2026 priorities, go ahead and indicate by raising your hand virtually. I'll give it just a minute. I don't see any hands. Okay, I don't see any virtual hands raised.
Okay. In that case, do we want to read through it one more time or are we comfortable? We read it out loud one time or something?
Yeah.
I think that idea, we got time.
You wanna read
You
out
want
loud?
to read?
You earned the right to.
Dear City Council, thank you for the opportunity to provide the Water Resources Advisory Board's perspective on potential 2026 City Council priorities. In response to Council's request, the board has identified a set of recommendations aligned with the city's strategic plan and the utility department's work plan. The following are the board's recommendations. South Boulder Creek flood mitigation. The South Boulder Creek flood mitigation is essential for protecting over 2,300 residents and more than 260 structures in the West Valley area from potential 100-year flood events. In March 2025, Council approved $66 million in Series 2025 bonds to fund the first phase. With legal and procedural delays impacting the timeline, we strongly encourage Council to prioritize and advocate for the project's implementation as it is crucial for community safety, infrastructure resilience, and long-term flood risk reduction in Boulder. Utilities rate study. Boulder's current water budget was first established in 2007. In 2026, there will be an effort to identify policy enhancements that continue to encourage water conservation while ensuring implementation and associated administrative burden are sustainable. While annual rate increases of 6 to 8% are necessary to maintain aging infrastructure and ensure reliable service, there's a growing concern about affordability for residents, particularly those with limited incomes. The study will take into consideration balancing sustainable investment with affordability. Council will be asked to approve the rate study in 2026. Capital improvement projects. Utility CIP focus is maintaining and replacing aging infrastructure and increasing reliability, resilience, and level of services of the water, wastewater, and storm flood infrastructure. It's critical Boulder continue its record of prudent and adequate investment in public infrastructure. Specific projects the board recommends council support in 2026 include, I'm not going to read that full list. Finally, RAB supports the Boulder Valley Comprehensive Plan, and in particular, the emphasis on policies around climate change preparation and utilities role in development. The board believes these recommendations represent high-value initiatives that build on existing efforts and advance the city's long-term goals. We look forward to continuing to partner with council and staff and carrying these priorities forward.
Can we look at the second bullet again? There's something. Just reading it wrong. Okay, what was current restrictions? So, I mean, I'm just wondering if that second sentence, we could combine that with the last sentence.
It's a little bit wacky, right? Because we're talking about the water budget, but we're also talking about rate increases and there's kind of a mashup there.
Yeah.
Like. Rates are an important consideration when it comes to the
But it's-
water budget, but the.
Right, but also what we're talking about, what's currently the second sentence, is that what is in the rate study? The identifying policy enhancements.
Yeah, but,
So I just wonder we combine that somehow.
yeah, maybe we say, Boulder's current water budget was first established in 2026. In 2007. In 2026. The rate study will include an effort to identify policy enhancements that continue to encourage water conservation.
So we asked to approve a rate study, which will
I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Council will be asked to approve a rate study that will identify policy enhancements.
And then you can take out, yeah, right, yep, yep,
Mhm.
Mhm.
yeah.
You
Yep,
might want to change the second that to a which. No, down below there,
Which continue.
which will, well,
Policy enhancements.
yeah, that's good.
which will continue.
We'll continue. Yeah.
And then do you wanna, like, with the second part with while annual rate increases, do you wanna see like additionally or like transition there somehow to be like? Now we're gonna talk about affordability.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
We could get rid of that last sentence.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
And the only other, you can go back up again, Karen, just a sec. This we've already said that several times, I just, you say, and which will continue to encourage water conservation while ensuring that implementation and associated.
Yeah.
Administrative burdens, maybe, or the administrative burden.
Sharing that. Implementation and associated.
Burdens, it should be plural, right?
Sorry.
Are you, while ensuring that implementation and the associated administrative burdens
Yeah,
are sustainable?
yeah.
Should kill the last sentence.
Here?
No. Well, then, council will be asked. Not just council will be asked, yeah.
Yeah. I like that ordering. Why do they care?
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
On the first bullet point up there, Karen, I was just gonna suggest saying the South Boulder Creek Flood Mitigation Project.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
In the title,
No, just down there, yeah.
You could say, since you just put in a title, you could say this project is essential. Want to save some words. So you're not repeating it.
just put it in the title.
You know, and just say, take out in that first I mean, I don't want to think, just take out. Right, and then just say, yep, delete that and just say this project.
It's fine.
Does that work? You don't have to repeat
It's
it.
fine, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need to get into Oxford commas. Right,
Well,
you know,
never
it's a few
tried.
Oxford.
I think Oxford comma.
Casing.
14 consultants, everybody thinks that.
I do not think
I do not think I'm an editor. I know who the editor is on my computer. We'll pilot.
What do
Okay.
you think, that pretty good?
Good with the first two, yeah.
Good work.
Great work.
You want to look at the third one again?
Well, I think I mean, it all read fine to me, but
Please.
Down to
You
3.
wanna say it is critical that Boulder continue? That's right.
Make sure we remember that.
it's critical that Boulder, yeah, we could add that.
Sure.
As well as that. Look at all those signs for stuff. So, yeah.
I'm trying to do ChatGPT. Just kidding.
There you go.
Okay. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think it's critical that Boulder continues. Yeah, it's just a.
It's a NIP, and I looked it up. The P in CIP, and the way we use it in Boulder City government is program.
Program.
Oh.
Capital improvement program. I knew it was okay.
Yes, I know, seeing a little.
Alright, I'm pretty good with this.
I think it looks pretty good.
Can you zoom out for us, Karen, just so we can see how it lays on the page?
It looks pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, it's like engineers wrote this. Nice job, Katie.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Katie, thank you.
And for doing the late work on this thing.
Yes.
Oh, I got a really good app.
We can need a
Well,
recommendation.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're all comfortable with that, I'm going to ask for. Do I want to ask for a recommendation or ask for a motion to accept, I'll ask for a motion to accept the letter. To the Boulder City Council as we have just prepared it. Does anybody want to?
Make a motion to accept and submit to city council.
And do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Great.
thank you, team.
Thank you, I appreciate that. That truly could be a midnight. Wow. I'm thankful to,
Yeah,
as much as I like this, I'm thankful to not be here today.
we're having a good time, but, okay, do we have any matters from the board? Any additional matters? No, okay, and how about matters? Yes,
We did
Mm.
talk before, and I just wanted to, volunteer to participate, in the rate study.
that's starting next.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize it was.
Okay. Matters from staff, Joe, would you like to appoint Amy as the?
Well, that's your decision.
Totally messed it up, I'm sorry.
Okay, matters from the staff.
Occasionally, we do invite a board member to follow along with a plan or a project that we're working on. We had a board member who participated in the comprehensive flood and stormwater plan that you heard about tonight. We had another different board member participate in our recent water efficiency plan update. And it can just be helpful, especially when there's someone on the board with subject matter expertise to kind of work a little more closely with staff. Generally not a huge time commitment, and I think we can tailor it to as needed. In the case of the flood plan, I think the board member attended some of the public meetings and working group meetings as well as coordinating with staff at times. I don't remember that being the case for the efficiency plan, and it was more just checking in with staff as the project went along. And so, as you noted in the recommendation letter, you just approved or recommended for council, the rate study and water budget effort is an important item in the utilities work plan, and that might be a good one to have a board member follow along with us. So if the board is open to that, and you want to nominate somebody or somebody wants to volunteer.
Now it's coming.
Yeah.
Now's the moment.
Volunteer?
Nominating you too.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
Yes, I would love to be involved in that.
You're all good with that, John?
We certainly are, I think. Yep.
That'd be great, and we really appreciate that.
Good.
The other matters item is a quick one. The gray water ordinance is going through the council process. They have a first and a second reading on it, which is the city process for ordinances. They've made a slight change in the second reading and recommended that the ordinance to opt out of the state's gray water program and to have a local control program set up, have a sunset in 2 years. And so that, it gets revisited a couple of years from now. And
Were they-
so.
Were they agreeable with the recommendation? Okay.
Yeah. And so no other changes to the ordinance. It was otherwise the same as what the Water Resources Advisory Board saw. And so, it'll take some time to develop a program. Our understanding is that they don't intend that we have a program ready to go in 2 years. They just revisit the decision of whether to stay on the status quo and continue to opt out, or to maybe add that to the work plan. And if that's all I had, if it's good with you, I can move on to the upcoming agenda.
Yep.
So, because we got the letter accomplished tonight, which we really appreciate, the thought was there that we might have to do a retreat before the end of the year. We won't need to do that. Typically, in the last several years, we haven't had a need for a meeting in December, so no meeting then. Then in January, our utilities annual report is sort of the utilities in year in review memo that we prepare for the board, so we'll cover that item. And then expect to have an information item on watershed protection code updates, which would leave February for potentially doing a retreat then with the board. If you're so inclined, that could potentially happen in March as well.
Would we have a regularly scheduled meeting in March also?
It depends on what's coming up on the schedule.
We could do the retreat sort of meeting in December also. Or would you rather not do it before the?
You could, if there was a.
I guess the issue would be, we wanna plan on doing that in February, or would we rather get it done in December or March or?
So you wouldn't have a meeting in February, right?
Mhm.
In March, we have the BBCP comes back, the language.
Mhm.
When is it, so when would the meeting be in January? What date?
January and February, there are, it's usually the fourth Monday. Normally there's a holiday on the third Monday both months.
Yeah.
And with the retreat, we sometimes do some more tailored scheduling based on the facilitator's availability, the board's availability. Wouldn't necessarily have to be on a Monday.
When will we make a schedule for? Send out announcements for the dates for next year,
For the retreat, oh,
the
for
whole year.
the, I'll probably start that in the next week or so,
Okay. 'Cause I don't think we have anything, we don't have any invites or anything yet, okay?
not for next year.
And our staff team. Last probably 3 years, we have a PowerPoint that we keep that has. A page for each month of the year for RAB, and we kind of keep a running list of how the year is shaping up and which months. Which topics will come forward. In terms of what I know now, February might be a good month for a retreat.
Okay, so we would be, both of those meetings would be late in the month. That works, okay for everybody?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, so we'll plan on a regular meeting in January and a retreat in February, and we'll play it by ear for March at this point.
Yeah, likely a comprehensive plan update for March, it sounds like. And water budgets.
Okay,
That's what I have.
okay, good. Anybody have anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting? In a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Should I get us